Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Walking Session. Maz Miller here. You know the drill. Grab your shoes, grab your headphones, grab your common sense. This is not therapy. Take all the things that I say with a grain of salt. If it fits, take it on. If it doesn't fit, throw it out. You're the expert on you and I'm not, so let's just jump straight in. Today I have a little bit of a different format already. Hey, episode 2, why not mix it up already? No, the reason why I'm doing it this way is that I'm so grateful for all the questions that were submitted on my social media. I jumped on and asked, if there's any additional questions. I kind of had an idea as to what I wanted to talk about today, and I got so many. I freaking love it. So what might be happening today, I'm just going to see how long I ramble on for. Potentially I might have to do like a part 1 and part 2 and part 3. We'll just see how I go. But yeah, thank you. And I think I'm just going to make this a regular thing. Hey, I might throw up the question box every week and just see what you guys come up with. And let you decide what we talk about on here. So where do I start? All right, some of you are giving me details, some of you are not. One person wrote they wanted some help with a family member that mingles in your marriage. I thought it said motherhood, probably motherhood too. How to deal with this. Wow, juicy one. Without knowing, obviously, all the details, maybe I have to put a disclaimer that when you submit your question, feel free to follow up in detail via DM. So I get like a little bit more, I'm learning, a little bit more of a scenario, I guess. So the more I know, the better I can answer these questions. But I guess I have a few questions on this one. Number one, is this recent? Is this always been the dynamic in your relationship? A family member on your side or a family member on your husband's side that's sort of having a say? Because I think dealing with this, that is the biggest thing. The message will always be received best from the side of the family where it's coming from. So if it's someone from your family as the woman, as the woman, then you should be the one addressing it. If it's somebody from your husband's side, then it's a really good idea for him to have a chat with them. So again, depending on what the issue is it just like continuous little things? There's different ways. So number one, I would say is let the person whose family it is address it. Obviously, you as a couple talk about how it affects you. So if it's your husband, it might not affect him. It might not bother him. It might be how he grew up. So he's just seeing it as his parents helping rather than what you're perceiving it as, which could be, no, we're here to build our family our own way. We need the autonomy and the boundaries so that we can do it. Me and you are the decision makers. So it might be, for example, that when something takes place that they might mingle in, you and your husband have already talked about it and made a decision and it's not open for discussion. So in that instance, they'll probably still give their feedback. They'll still probably say X, Y, Z, you should do this, you should do this. In which instance, I think the best thing to do, and this is just a life situation, I'm usually the kind of person that already has made up her mind. So I'm like pretty set, but I always leave a little bit of room for learning something. So I'm openly listening to people, but full well knowing that I'm in power as to whether I take that stuff on or not. So, and obviously there's topics that are a bit more triggering, like when you're a new mum and everyone's trying to tell you what to do and how to do it, especially if you're in postpartum and you're more sensitive than ever and more alert than ever to those things. That feels very different to having your kid go to school, be in school age, and people have their own ideas as to how you should school your kids, right? So all that to say is you two are a team, first off. You're open about communicating how this situation makes you feel to each other. And then as a team, you decide whether it's an issue that one of you needs to address with their family, or if it's a situation of when we talk about something, it's not going to be triggering because we know we don't have to take it on. We allow other people to have their opinions and we friendly nod and then we do what we want to do. And, there's been instances where I feel like I've walked into those situations I've taken nothing on, and there's been times where I've gone, I didn't actually think of that. That's cool. I might think about that bit. So I think that's my sort of simple advice without knowing fully what's going on. If the mingling is sort of getting in between you and your husband, then obviously, again, drawing attention to that and having a chat about how it's impacting your relationship. It has to be a team effort as to how you two set boundaries, especially if it's impacting your immediate family. And obviously gently, right? So you're not going to say to your husband, your mum's a bitch, she keeps saying this. It becomes more of a conversation of, hey, this is something I've noticed. I would like me and you to be the leaders of our family. I would like us to make certain decisions. And then talk about it later without it being, we have to do what they say. Oh, it's so hard to give this advice without knowing the details. I think that's what I need to do, hey? Lesson learned there, Maz. Ask people to DM further details about what's going on. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Somebody has written down, again, quite broad, feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. Gosh, don't we all? Do we all not have moments of feeling overwhelmed and frustrated? Okay, so much to say about this. Again, quite general. I'm not sure if it's about your work, about relationships, about whatever it is. But I think the biggest thing to do when you're feeling overwhelmed and frustrated is to take a moment and sit back and have a little reflection moment on why. It can be as simple as... oh, God, it can be so many things. So many things. See, this is, okay. Any feelings that our body is sending to us are definitely a message. And there's times where we ignore them and they get louder. And there's times where it's actually healthy to ignore them, right? So I might be standing up to do a speech in front of a whole bunch of people and I'm feeling anxious and I'm going to take deep breaths and I'm going to sit with that anxiety is going to be there, but I'm going to be pretty much ignoring it and carrying on with the job. I'm going to be like, I know you're here. I am also nervous too. I don't want to say anything wrong, but I'm just going to do what I need to do anyway. This is not going to stop me from going out there and doing that talk, right? So you can see how quote unquote negative feelings, there's times where it's good to override them. Now, if you're feeling overwhelmed and frustrated all the time, not situationally, then that's a whole different ball game. That might be the moment where you go, what is going on here? So I know for me, I have a little bit of a behavioural cycle, I suppose, where I do things, I get quite tired or run down, but I want to do more things to be able to cope with more things. I start to dip into something unhealthy or healthy. So if I'm in a really good place, I will go, no, I'm definitely sticking to, for example, my exercise. If I'm really, really pushed, that's when I will let exercise go to be able to do more things, right? As a result, okay, I was completely interrupted then and I have no idea what I was up to. Awesome. So we're talking about now I'm frustrated and overwhelmed. So we're talking about whether it's temporary and I guess my trajectory, what it is. I think that's what I was up to. So I will, if I stop exercising and if it goes for a shorter period of time, that's totally doable. And you can see how that coping mechanism to create more time is a reinforced one, or one that my body goes, oh, that was good, Maz. Like you skipped that workout and you got your reports done. So yeah, we'll bank that as a good thing. But if that becomes a more chronic thing and now I haven't exercised for 3 months, 100% the side effects of me not moving my body are going to be showing up as more frustration, more overwhelm, more stress. Does that make sense? So that's the bit where you just got to, again, take a step back and go, what have I let go? What am I doing too much of? What is going on here? What are the dynamics? And look, sometimes they're in your control, sometimes they're not. Like I know at times it's as simple as work is just a lot. And the nature of my work is that it's never like it's never ever even. It's never balanced. I go through stages where there's heaps on and then it gets a bit quieter. And I've just learned through, I guess, doing that for a long time to just kind of pace myself with it. I have come to a place of a plan A and plan B in terms of exercise, for example. So I'm giving you a little bit of a solution if that's a thing that you're going through with your overwhelm and frustration. I go through seasons where I can make the gym. I go through seasons where I can't, and I can smash a workout in the garage at home. And then I go through the seasons where my only option is, I'm lucky that I walk at work, obviously, that the only exercise I will get are the walks at work, the walk to school with my kids, and maybe some yoga while Lacey's sleeping. I often, if she's having a nap, I often don't even try to do the heavy lifting stuff because it's too loud. And I have such light sleepers that I know that will get them up. I go through different seasons, and I've just, I guess, become okay. And there's also been seasons where I've let all of that go, and it's literally become the accidental exercise from work and walking kids to school because that's all I could manage in that season. But all that to say, I've made sure that it is all temporary. I don't lose sort of focus on moving my body every day in some kind of way. Nutrition's the same, all that stuff. So take a moment, take a step back. Have a think about why you're feeling frustrated, why you're feeling overwhelmed. I know personality-wise, I am, what would you call me, a recovering people pleaser. And it's certainly a new level, new devil experience for me in that space. I sort of get on top of something, and then there's a saying, now I'm dropping all these sayings, aren't I? Look at me. There's a saying, you get tired, you get lazy. And essentially what happens is to change something about yourself that you have done for a long time is really hard. So as soon as we get tired and potentially overwhelmed, we tend to revert to what we know or to what we've done for a long period of time. So in terms of a people-pleasing situation, what I find is that I speak up for what I need. Most of it gets met. It's never everything. Nobody's perfect. I start to feel a bit better, and then something else takes over in life, and then all those old patterns creep in. See how I was saying I'll let exercise go, and that's usually to make up for something else in my family. And then I'll wake up to myself and go, why am I sacrificing myself for everybody's well-being again? Like I said, at times it's in my control, at times it's not. You know, there's times where the little ones are sick and all they want is mum, and in that instance, it just is what it is. It's just the season of life. So I don't sit there going, I'm sacrificing myself. You know, I just go, that's just what it is. There won't be little forever. But in other instances, I have done things like, say my husband needed more time or more of something. I'll go, yep, I can do it. I'll do it. I can just do my stuff in the middle of the night. Which thank God I don't do anymore. And then I've learned the hard way, and that still creeps in little bits and pieces. It might be me just automatically saying yes to things, just kind of falling back into those old patterns. So it's the work never ends. This is why I'm saying new level, new devil. These things that we're working on, so our personalities, let me wind it back and bring it back to a bit of psychology. When I was studying personality testing, I chose a personality test that I wanted to learn in particular that was based on 70 years of research. The research was 60-40. 60% of who we are the traits that we're born with, 40% is our environment. I was a bit devo about that because I was hoping it's like a 50-50 deal, but it's pretty close to 50-50 anyway. But it does still mean that a big part of who we are is just who we are, but then the 40% is a big chunk of doing something to help make that change. The people-pleasing part of me, people-pleasing sounds so negative, is also the nurturing part of me. It's also the loving and giving part of me. I don't want to change that, and I actually can't. I've tried. It doesn't work. It's just who I am, right? So I'm pretty heart-led. I kick my head into gear when I need to in business, and then I kind of swing between the two. I think the people-pleasing bit is the part of me where that beautiful, nurturing and giving bit just falls off the rails and just goes too far. So over time, I've just continuously had to learn to reel it in. And the reason why it's so hard is because it feels so good. That's why I am nurturing and giving, because I love that. It's such a big part of me. But distinguishing between the point where I'm being taken advantage of, or I'm giving too much, or it might even be annoying to some people, is the bit where that I'm continuously, and I think that will just be my lesson forever. I feel like we'll be recording another one of these in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, and I'll be like, my kids are telling me to stop doing their washing. Maybe they won't. They'll love that bit. So anyway, all that to say, if you're feeling overwhelmed, I've gone on a tangent. See, if you don't give me parameters, I'll just keep going. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling frustrated, if it's with a person, have a little step back and think about what's going on here. Like, what am I going to do? What am I doing? Am I doing too much, too little? Am I not asking for what I need? What am I expecting here? All that kind of stuff. And then if it's a work situation, it's that I don't know if you've ever heard about the whole accept it, change it, or leave it. Whenever there's something in life that is either bothering us or it's a issue that keeps coming up, your three choices are: you can accept it as it is, you can try and change it if you can, or you can leave the situation. So maybe out of those three, like, have a little reflection on, have you tried changing it? If it's not working, do you want to try one more time and do it in a different way? And then what are you going to do? You're going to accept it or leave it. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. And it says managing, I don't know how much help I'm going to be here, managing a real wild child. Oh my goodness. And I'm learning through motherhood and my work as well that the real wild child thing has a different definition for everybody. Everybody seems to have a different variation of the wild child, depending on what your kid's doing. I remember thinking Noah was pretty out there. Well, she's pretty emotionally wild, I'm going to say. She's quite a beautiful, sensitive little soul. So things feel quite big to her, and I found her emotionally wild. Still do, but as she's getting older and she's learning things and I'm learning things and we're learning things, all of that is becoming much, much more manageable and beautiful. And for me anyway, I find her, she's nearly 7. It's a delicious age. Love the stage she's in. It's so beautiful. But then also my second is a wild child physically. Like, you cannot restrain that child. She's climbing anything that can be climbed. She's jumping off any ledge. She's balancing on everything, including the other morning I woke up to her stretching out my arm and balancing on my arm, you know. So she's wild in a whole different way. The emotions, I'm sure, are still to come. But I already found her, even at 2 years old, so different. So emotionally different in terms of when something's happening, it blows over for her really quickly, as opposed to my first, who things took time emotionally to, like, it wasn't here it is, I'm crying, cuddle, it's over. Things went on and on and on. So managing a real wild child, I guess, without knowing the specifics around it, around your bubba, or how old and what's going on, it's hard to answer. Please send me a DM and tell me a little bit more. But what I will say is, I find with my kids, and I don't know if everyone else finds this, like, they all the same, so the two of them are very different, but also each stage I've just kind of braced myself for this motherhood roller coaster at this point, because it seems like I figure something out, and now I'm saying I'm in a beautiful stage with my 6-year-old, but in a month or 2 or 3, those things change again and something else presents, whether it's something's happening at school, or her dynamic with a sibling is changing, or it can be still toileting issues. Yes, at 6, it's still a thing. Whether it's how she's interacting with her food, whether she's becoming picky, and what we need to do there nutritionally. So it can be it can be so widespread. I think tuning into your kid and what they need, and it's not always like, I don't know, I don't like the whole, it's always something that you're doing wrong. I feel like a lot of parenting advice is heavily focused on the parent. We're giving the children no autonomy, like no, they're just their own person going through stuff. It's always like, what are you doing at home? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? So sometimes it's also just allowing kids to go through what they're going through. I think if your kid is displaying emotions and open with you about things that are going on, it means that you're doing something real good there. If they're openly talking to you about things and you picking up on their behaviors, is like doing something really good there. So it's kind of sitting back and going, is this just a stage? Do I need to do anything? And as a mum, I'm assuming you're a mum writing in, dads too, so this is not just a one-way street. I feel like we are so intuitive with our kids anyway. I bet ya, if you really sit still for a moment, like if you really tune all the bullshit out, you switch off social media for a moment, that you'll be able to pinpoint what it is. That you'll go, yeah, we had a few, we're a bit out of routine with the sleep stuff, or they haven't been eating. Is that catching on now? They haven't been eating properly. Or, I've been really stressed in a home and things are not rolling as smoothly. What can we rejig there to make sure that overwhelm is not happening in the home? Or, I bet you there's something that you can put your finger on without me even telling you. Like I said, you're always the expert on you and your kids, by the way. Kind of brings me back to the question that we had before this, the little bit of feeling of overwhelm and frustration. I'm just going to throw this kind of answer to both of these questions, the managing the wild child and that bit. Sometimes just tuning out and tuning in is the way to go. Like, I find that when I am overwhelmed, my level of wanting to be distracted goes up because I'm looking for these short bursts of feeling good and short bursts of distraction because whatever's going on feels just so big and heavy. So I tend to have my headphones in a bit more than usual, listening sometimes to good stuff. Like I might just be listening to books or a show that I'm really into. So it's not, you can see how all our coping mechanisms are never bad initially, short term, but when it becomes a long-term thing, they are. Found myself the other day actually doing a little bit of what I spoke about, needing to make exercise a priority again, just additional. I'm always moving, but just a little bit additional stuff. And I thought, I'll just get on the mat and do a little 20-minute yoga. And I was like, I'm no joke, my first thought was, I wonder if I can watch something. I wonder if I can watch something while I'm doing it. I was like, oh God, didn't know it was this bad, this whole needing to escape thing. So of course I turned the TV off and tuned into my body. And it was so nice. It was a real gentle release kind of stretchy session. It was beautiful to just get back to me, and I actually didn't turn the TV on back after because my nervous system was kind of re-regulated and I didn't need it. I was just like, oh, calm is nice. It's nice. Calm is nice. I remember now. But yeah, so managing your wild child. Let me know if I haven't really touched on anything there. If you're like, you're totally off track, I apologize. Send me a DM and I maybe can be more helpful with something really, really, really specific. All right. I'm going to keep going. I'm answering it pretty quickly. Maybe this will just be a really long walking session for you, in which case, enjoy. Okay, the next one was healing your inner child. Ooh, well, the fact that you know that there's an inner child, I'm already impressed. I'm going to start there. I think that is already something special. Healing your inner child. I've got a whole resource on this, which also kicks me up the bum to start my little resource page. All right, here it is. Before I finish this episode and I post it, I'm going to make it available. I'm going to commit to that. I'm not going to publish this episode until that walking session self-help space is available. For those of you who just want to go a little bit deeper, so it's just at the moment, you'll see, it's in my head. 90% of it is done. I just haven't click the publish button, but essentially it's a space where I just chuck a whole heap of resources that I have around all of this stuff. Some are journals, some are planners, some are reflection exercises, affirmation cards, all that kind of fun stuff. Lots and lots of resources. Anyway, you can check it out. I'll put everything in the show notes. But in terms of healing your inner child, there's a whole journal in there that's already in there about this, and it's a little bit of a gentle day-by-day situation or moment by moment. I found that when I've done it myself, I've done a little bit, given it a couple of weeks to settle, done the next bit, and done it that way. So there is, I guess, a way to heal your inner child and work through it, but it's beyond just a worksheet. Let's be real. It's beyond a journal, I mean. I think the best way to heal your inner child is to just sort of go a little bit at a time. Like, is there a particular time in your life that stands out, or is there a theme that keeps popping up for you? Obviously, if it's trauma, you want to be super gentle with it. On the whole trauma thing, it's like a real... how would I like to talk about that part? It's a little bit of do what needs to be done, and you're in control of how much you need to do. I think it's good to revisit things from our childhood, especially the trauma in our childhood, because when you revisit it now, you get in touch with that child that went through it. And just kind of it helps you identify the reaction you had as a child and how you would react as an adult now. It's really, really powerful to go back to a situation and go, what would I do as an adult, as opposed to the helpless child that I was. So say if it was, I'm going to leave my own trauma out of it for a moment, but say it was bullying at school, and say you were in year 1 or something like that. Just you were little, or kindy, or year 2, or even year 5, but you're an adult now, whatever year. I'm just throwing years out now. I'm just trying to imagine a little kid that, 10-year-old sort of thing. And that was happening to you, and as a result, you've taken on a lot of that. You might be really sensitive to criticism. You might be quite defensive as a person. You might be quite reactive and quite emotional. That's how a 10-year-old should react to a bullying situation, right? They should be crying and taking it very, very personally, given how important friendships are at that age. They definitely should be feeling really overwhelmed and not knowing how to deal with that stuff. All of that stuff happens, right? So that's how a 10-year-old reacts. Sometimes what happens is when we have a trauma in our life at a certain age, we then get kind of stuck in that. I'm sure you've heard this before. And the way that we handle stressful situations, our body kind of remembers the big one. And then it never wants you to go through the big one. So immediately reacts as if it's the big one, just to be sure that you're overprotected over any other one. So it never turns into the big one. So it's almost kind of then sitting with that situation going, well, what would I do now, right? If I was in year 4 and so-and-so said, you are ugly, I don't know, you'd be like, yeah, rightio, kid, see you later. So it's really powerful then to revisit those things and each one of those, whatever you stand out that was being said to you, whatever was done to you, and kind of react from a more, okay, how does an adult deal with that? Does a confident, settled, adjusted adult react to a child saying that? And you revisit it and you take your power back, and I think that that's super powerful. You can do that with lots of different situations to give yourself that power back. I think that's the beautiful part about healing your inner child. Obviously, a child could, for some of us or some people, can be quite heavy on this stuff. So you want to be mindful of how much you're processing while being a functioning adult in society, because it can be triggering. So I would suggest do a little bit at a time. It is a new level, new devil thing. You might find out something else about yourself that surprises you. You sit with that, but you know that you're in the driver's seat and you can put the brakes on at any time, and do it gently. So that would be how I would approach healing my inner child. Always give lots of care to yourself around it. And it doesn't mean that if you're like a busy mum, you can't do this stuff. It just means that you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that after 7 days of not sleeping at all. I'll probably leave this one for the week where I've slept for one night. That's my reality. Sleep for a good night, I feel amazing. Sleep for a good night. See, I'm not even making sense. Sleep for one night and I'll feel amazing. Step by step, little bit by little bit. Feel free to check out the resource in the I'll put it in the show notes, how you can access that and go from there. And again, if you want me to go into a little bit more detail, give me more detailed questions. All right, last couple I'm down to. And one was any tips on dealing with recurrent imposter syndrome. I'm sipping on my green juice before I answer this one. Love it. Love it. No tips, just freaking go with it. I'm going to say that if you have recurrent imposter syndrome, I've got a question. Does that mean that you're doing something challenging all the time? Or are you having imposter syndrome doing the same old thing? Because they're two different questions. If you're having imposter syndrome, say you've been an accountant for 10 years and all you do is the same accounting stuff and you're questioning yourself, then shit, hey, like you should be pretty confident doing what you're doing at this point. Why do I think that's coming up? For an accountant that's been doing the same thing for 10 years and it's all pretty steady and she's still questioning whether she can do it, I would say is reflect on your self-talk. How are you talking to yourself while you're working or getting on with your day? Are you really self-critical? Are you not taking note of the things that you're doing really well? Because I reckon 10 years in, you'd be pretty fucking good at what you're doing, especially if it's the same thing. So how are you evaluating the world around you and the work that you're doing, and how are you letting yourself know that you're doing a really good job? Is there someone in your life who is telling you otherwise? Do you have someone that keeps quote unquote bursting your bubble where you're like, actually I feel pretty good, and then they're like, meh, do ya? Well, let me tell you what you're not doing good. How do you have healthy relationships with those people? Because we can't always get rid of them. And we shouldn't always get rid of them. Sometimes we definitely should, but not always. So if you're somebody that has imposter syndrome, like I said, if it's something that you've done for a very long time and you're actually doing quite well, then I would say that what's happening is that your self-talk or how you're responding to what you're doing, there's something off there, right? So it might be a matter of sitting down and writing down your achievements and all the things that you're doing well, rather than just paying attention to all the things you're not doing so good, and constantly reminding yourself of all the things that you're doing so well if there's no one else in your life to tell you that you're doing an amazing job. There's not many people with imposter syndrome that are not doing an amazing job. You don't see anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. So that's one side to it. If you're having imposter syndrome that's recurrent because you keep throwing yourself into challenging situations, then hell yeah, that's going to be happening, because if you're doing something new, if you're doing something challenging that you've never done before, then you're going to feel like, I don't know if I can do this. Like even if you're throwing yourself into a situation that you know but you don't know. So say, for example, you go to a lot of networking events. But you've been to a lot of networking events and you're like, why do I feel anxious about it? Because they're all still different. They still have different people there. You still don't know the situation. So there can still be a level of, oh God, how am I going to go here? If it's important to you. So imposter syndrome will only pop up if it's important to you, which is why I'm saying it's usually people that are doing a good job that have imposter syndrome because they care. They're people that don't give a shit. They're confident as, even when they shouldn't be, because they don't care. They're walking into situations going, don't care. Like, yeah, I can do this. So if it's recurrent, I'm going to say sounds like you're doing some really meaningful work that you really give a shit about and you want to do really well in. And B, you're probably not having a day job where it's not the 10-year accounting situation where there are changes and you are a little bit free-falling. And part of that is trusting yourself. So what I will say to you is the way that I would deal with that, and the way that I deal with that, especially if you're in business, this is a thing, right? I say to myself, Maz, you might not know how to deal with the situation exactly, but you know how to deal with situations where you don't know what's going on. So I've had enough exposure to things that were hard and that I thought, how the fuck am I going to do this? And then I did it. So while I might not know every single situation, I'm really confident now at knowing how to address something I don't know about. I've got the right amount of support around me in terms of I know the kind of people I can ask for help. I know how to do the research around it. I know that it might be harder and take longer and be some sleepless nights, but I know I can get through that. Like, I know I can do hard stuff. Does that make sense? So rather than needing to know every single situation, I now know that I can know how to find a solution for every single situation. Does that make sense? So this whole, my way of dealing with the recurrent imposter thing for you would be saying, what's going on here? Like, what am I expecting? Am I expecting myself to walk into every single one of these, knowing 1,000,000% every little detail of it? Well, that's not going to happen unless I'm in some kind of real tick a box kind of job that's probably pretty boring and not your thing, right? Because you've got imposter syndrome. So I feel like that's not your thing. You're probably not into that. So it's kind of knowing that the kind of work that you like, there's always going to be a level of challenge, and with a level of challenge, there's going to be growth, and with growth comes discomfort and imposter syndrome and doubt. But you're going to take a step back and go, I've done plenty of challenges now. I know how to do a challenge, and that's where it comes from. So when I did my master's in sports and performance psychology, one of the aspects that I researched was confidence. And after 4 years of looking into it, here's the conclusion, real simple. Nobody wants to read a full book about it. To become confident at something, you got to do hard things and then look back on those hard things and go, I can do hard things. I'm confident. So without doing the hard stuff that you're feeling not confident about, you can't get confident. So there's no amount of motivational talk and telling yourself and all that kind of stuff. It's actually very action focused. It's doing the hard thing and knowing you can do the hard thing. That's how you feel good about doing hard things, because you've done hard things. So unfortunately, there's no easy way through it. But I'm going to say that the fact there's some imposter syndrome there means that you do care and means that you're doing something challenging. And I'm going to just say, keep doing that and accept that when it pops up for you, just maybe take a moment for reflecting on what you can do rather than what you can't do. And then if there's a gap, not freaking out about the gap and procrastinating about the bit of your work that you don't know how to do and sitting on it. No, you go to that bit of work and you go, well, maybe I can't do this bit. Where can I find more research? Who can help out with this one? You kind of non-perfectionistically address it and go, I don't have to know it all. I just need to know most of it, and that's what I feel good about. Again, if I'm answering it too broadly, let me know a little bit more. Okay, next one. Social anxiety come downs. I've socialized and now worrying about how I came across. Fun. Okay, yes, there is such a thing as a social anxiety come down. I call it a social anxiety hangover. I find mine, I don't know if I'm making this up. So again, if it rings true, take it on. If it doesn't, throw it out. I find it happens where I've overshared, as in like there's been some kind of vulnerability on my behalf and the other person didn't come to the party. And I'm like, well, this is unbalanced now. Now I feel anxious about it. Like I find that I'm assessing or uncomfortable because maybe I've put myself out there too much or for more than the emotional battery that I had left. And again, if it is confidence related, this stuff as well, it comes down to who was there. So you might find that if the social interaction was your family, you find that the social come down is real quick because you know they love you. But say it's new people or colleagues whose respect we really are wired to want, and the group that we want to belong to, then we might question ourselves a bit more because we're not sure where we stand, and it's this whole like dance, isn't it? I think it all comes down to going, I am who I am and I'm not for everyone. I'd love to be. I reckon there's probably people that tuned into 2 minutes of these podcasts and have gone, see you later, Maz, you're not for me. I'm not Nutella, I'm not ice cream. And that's cool because it's much easier to just get on with people that are your people. And And I don't mean that in an exclusive sense whatsoever, but what I mean is the kind of people where you don't have to change and bend and move to fit, you just kind of go, this is who I am. And there's a bit of growth on both sides rather than I've got to completely change myself to get that work or to fit in with that person. I don't know, I'm just going to go off my gut here. I have a feeling that maybe what's happened is, like I said, that you've gotten excited, you've shared a few things, that person didn't share as much. Maybe you thought, maybe I need to share a bit more. Maybe, I could be wrong, hey. And now you're like, oh shit, what's going on here? Or on the flip side, you're really sensitive to other people's, demeanor maybe. And maybe are you taking it personally? Like maybe somebody was having a bad day when they socialized and has nothing to do with you. Like maybe they just had a fight with their partner and slammed the door of the car and then walked into this social event, and now they're bringing a bit of a vibe with them and you're talking to them and you're getting a bit of a cold shoulder. So you might be feeling that it's you, but can you see how in so many situations it's not us? I always use a scarf analogy in this instance. I've used this on other podcasts before, but I'm just going to throw it out there again. Imagine if you get up in the morning, right, and you're getting ready to go to work, and on your way to work, it's a really cold morning and you go, I'm going to wear a red scarf. This looks really good. You walk down the stairs and your husband goes, oh, darl, you look so nice with that red scarf. And you're like, thanks, babe. I know I'm rocking it. And then you walk out and you stop at your letterbox and your neighbour says, oh, the red scarf again. Don't have any other colour. And you go, fuck, I'm wearing a red scarf again. I might just go and get changed. And then you go upstairs and you put the pink one on and you walk out and like, oh, that's better. You can't say that. And then you get in the car and you drive, you get to work and someone's like, oh, pink, geez, I didn't take you for a pink girl. You're like, shit, oh, I do have another scarf in my car. I might go change. And you put the black scarf on and you walk in and you go, that's better. And that person nods and now you know that you've good decision there. Definitely should have changed this black scarf. You walk in and someone else has the black scarf on, go matchy, we're on the same page, black scarf, high five. And you love the validation. You love how good it feels that they said that. And then you go to your scene and then someone else is like, your bestie maybe, your colleague bestie goes, babe, black scarf, really? You know you're not a black scarf kind of girl. And you're like, I know. I actually wore the red one. And she's like, totally your colour. Red's totally you. Can you see how along the way, if we keep changing the scarf, all this to say, you could go on with your day and if you asked everyone for what colour scarf you needed, you would have just kept changing them. What happens along the way is that where we get validated or criticised is where we get all like spun around because you start to mistake the black scarf validation and fitting in with what you like. And it's not what you like. You don't want the black scarf. You want the bloody red one. And your husband was right. Or maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe your husband doesn't even like the red one, but he's just saying it because he's hoping you cook his favourite meal later. Or I don't know, he's got his own incentives or he's just feeling really good about something else. He's sharing the love. Like, can you see us just so like muddled up? Like we're just so complex as people. So the thing to do is just to wear the fucking red scarf and sit with it. If the neighbour says red scarf again, you go, yeah, it's my favourite. And that's it. End of story. And if someone says, I don't take you for a red scarf girl, you go, well, you got me wrong, didn't you? Definitely a red scarf girl. Yeah, so someone with the black scarf says, oh, you're red, I'm black. We're not mashing. You go, probably not, because I love my red scarf. Okay, so the whole social anxiety thing, maybe you've gone in a little bit of overdrive of caring about what they think about you and what that means. And when we start to attach meaning to things, that's when we get a bit out of control. Then the whole like this person was a bit closed off. We attach meaning to them being closed off and then becomes a whole story about how they don't like us and there's probably something we've said or done and, you know, we're never going to make any friends ever again because of that. So I'm going to say to you, the come down stuff definitely can be a little bit of you're an introvert more than extrovert and you're just exhausted and drained. So go have a bath, have some alone time and recharge your battery. Can be that. Spend some time in nature. Beautiful. Hopefully out for a walk right now. Great. So recharge your battery that way. But then on the other hand, I'll have a little reflection on where did I bend a little bit? Where did I allow others' opinions to sway me? Where did I confuse the validation for who I actually am and what I stand for? And if they like it, they like it. And if they don't, they don't. I think sometimes it's just really good to be, not sometimes, always. I say to my kids, just be comfortable and be yourself and the rest will take care of itself. I kind of go with that theme in a lot of things. Like, speaking of getting dressed, I always encourage my girl to be comfortable, and she's just had a massive growth spurt and things are getting small, so got her some new clothes. But the day just before we did, we ran out of washing, and the only pair of tights she had left are they're uncomfortable. And she said, Mum, what am I going to wear? And I'm like, wear those tights. She's like, you said not to wear things that are not comfortable, and they're really uncomfortable. And I was like, damn it. Wear a dress. Because just wear a dress. They're comfortable. That's really comfortable. Anyway, last one for today. All right, I've talked for 45 minutes. I've chewed your ear off. It's been fun. I think what we've all learned today is that maybe what I will do is next time I throw up these questions, I'm going to leave it up to you whether you want me to go as general as I did today, or if you want to give me some specifics, and then I can give you more detailed answers and I can go into it. So more specific, more personalized is the word I'm looking for. That's the one. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. As I said, there's going to be a bit of a self-help space that I'm going to create. In my head, it's going to be priced really low. Something like, I don't know, $7 a month. Let's just do it at that, $7 a month. I want it to be affordable. The whole point of this podcast is that I know we're in a bit of a tricky climate, and I know that not everyone can afford to see a psychologist, so I want to do my bit for the people that can't. So we'll do it at that. It's a coffee nowadays, isn't it? Gosh, how expensive is coffee these days? And yeah, I'll chuck some things in there. I'm hoping that my podcast answers your questions and it's helpful anyway. But for those of you who wanted to go a bit deeper and have access to some more stuff, you can jump in there and check it out. All right, leaving it there. Love you and leave you, and I will catch you next time. Peace.